Okay everyone, before we get into the video, I just want to say please ignore my makeup throughout this video. I look busted, I look like I took a punch to the face. Please ignore it. We will get on with the video. I promise it will be better tomorrow. Hello everyone, welcome to the video. First, hold on, I gotta get my special guest up front. This is my Squishmallow that I recently got. Reed got it for me and I love her. If you've never hugged a Squishmallow, you don't understand the hype, but she's gonna be my buddy for the day. I have a very exciting announcement. Some of you probably saw this on the community tab yesterday, but I am starting Vlogust. I'm gonna be vlogging every day in August. I don't know if this means there will be an upload every day. I don't want to put that much pressure on myself just because Vlogmas last year was very stressful, and then I had a lot of pre-film videos, and for this I really don't have any. It's gonna be more so just vlogging every day. I definitely have content ideas, things I want to talk about during the month, and obviously this is gonna be a busy month because lots of job interviews, lots of prepping for school to start, and school actually starting, so there will be a lot of content this month. I just don't want to commit to an upload every day just in case I miss a day. I don't like breaking my promises. So today is the first day of Vlogust. I'm so excited. So let me know if you have any content ideas down below. But this episode 1. This episode is going to be an unfiltered chat about my first year of law school. I feel like we've kind of touched on this in a few videos, but I kind of want to just break it down by category. We're going to get into it, an unfiltered chat about my first year of law school, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. So I guess we will start with academics. What I kind of expected versus how it went, and just my overall feelings about, is law school hard? How hard is law school? I knew I was about to be challenged in ways that I had never been challenged my first year of law school. I knew that for sure. I didn't know to what extent. I read many posts on forums about how difficult it is and how you're going to be working all the time and how it's going to be absolutely miserable, and that wasn't necessarily my experience when it came to academics. I do feel like I was challenged. It was a lot harder than any school I had ever done in my life, just because it was hard to start thinking like a lawyer. That was the kind of biggest adjustment. It was changing my thought process from seeing things black and white to kind of living in the gray area, because that's kind of what the law is. All ambiguity. So that's kind of a weird, uncomfortable type of feeling at first, and it's hard to kind of start thinking that way, but once you do and once you accept that, I do think it gets a lot easier. The thing with law and the thing with the first year law school classes are some things you're just gonna get and some things will click with you and other things don't click. For me, Civ Pro clicked. I understood it. I'd go to class and I would get it immediately. I would be like, I understand this topic 100%. Other classes, like contracts, sometimes I'd go and I'd be like, I'm really enjoying this, but I don't really get it, and it would take longer for it to click. Con law was really hard for me, and also I just didn't like it, so I put less effort into classes like that. So it varies, obviously, depending on the class, but I will say it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be, but it was really challenging. So that's kind of where I sat on the academics. I think for me, things that have helped were obviously like sticking with a pretty disciplined study schedule, starting my outlines early, finding techniques that worked for me. You guys know I recorded voice notes of me reading my outlines, and I'd listen to them on my runs, and I'd listen to them before I went to sleep. And those kinds of things really helped me, talking it out with people who didn't go to law school. So I would sit down with a non-law school friend or read, and I would explain to them, here's this topic of the law, and I'd try to explain it in the most dumbed down way possible so that somebody who doesn't even know anything about the law can understand it. Those kinds of things really helped me. Those are kind of like my biggest study tips that I think are kind of unique. Academics wise, it's not as bad. I think I expected, to be quite honest, I expected to do worse on the curve than I did. I think that's also just because, you know, I came in with a lower LSAT score. I was expecting to be with geniuses, and I just thought, you know, I would try really hard, and, you know, it was going to be different from before in undergrad, where if I tried really hard, I did well. I thought I was going to do worse on the curve than I did. So I was pleasantly surprised in regards to academics. Until you get into that headspace of learning how to think like a lawyer, it's hard. But once you do, it clicks. It's a little easier. Socializing. Let's talk about the social part of law school. Let's talk about friendships. This is something I've talked about numerous times as well, but let's just do kind of an overview. My first month of law school, I didn't really have any friends. I was kind of, you know, I talked to people, but I'm not some person who was very active in the class group me. I don't do that. I really didn't go out of my way to try to socialize because for me it felt really inorganic and awkward over Zoom. And also I'm just kind of an introverted, shy person. So the first month of law school I didn't have any friends, and it really was, I didn't know at the time. I was like, oh, this is fine. I don't think I could do law school now without like having the friendships that I have, because it really does change everything. It changes the game. During that time, you know, I was just going to class, doing my thing, kind of getting my bearings, but the second I started to make friends, you just have somebody to relate to you. And I think academic wise it helps if you're the type of person who likes to kind of bounce ideas off of other people and study together, which I was very much an individualist before law school, but I definitely feel like I'm more of a collectivist now, just in how I study and how I love to kind of, you know, debate legal theories, and you have other people to be nerds with. But also from a mental health perspective, you know, you can relate to other people. Other people are also really stressed. You don't feel like you're going crazy because everybody else is too, and it kind of normalizes the experience a little bit. I was fortunate enough because I'm not really the person who reaches out ever. It's really hard for me to slide into somebody's DMs and just be like, hi, do you want to be friends? To me, that's really hard, and that's something I struggled with a lot. My YouTube channel honestly brought me a couple of my greatest law school friends, and I just got kind of fortunate. But I would recommend to anybody who's going into law school who's really nervous because maybe you're more introverted, maybe you're shy, I would recommend that you do reach out, because that's something I wish I would have done sooner, so I didn't have that kind of like month and a half where I really didn't have friends. I would recommend that you reach out because everybody is looking for friends. There's not a single person in my class who could have reached out to me in that first month that I would have like blown off and been like, I don't want to be friends with you. Everybody is looking for friends. Everybody's looking to fit in. Don't let your introversion or shyness get in the way, because you can hold yourself back that way. And I think kind of transitioning kind of from friendships to networking opportunities. Networking was something that I was worried about, and I made a whole video about my law school fears, and I talked about how I was afraid to kind of reach out and put myself out there, and I have a lot of social anxiety, and that's something I've gotten a lot better at. And I think the key to getting better at it is to do it. Cold emailing attorneys and asking to learn about their practice area, it's uncomfortable. Reaching out to people, trying to build your legal network is awkward, and it's hard to do at first, but the legal world, it's a whole new world, and attorneys are more than happy to sit with you for 10 to 15 minutes and just talk to you, and then you have another little link on your network. Learn how to use LinkedIn. I didn't know how to use it, and that was something that I had to learn how to do, and now I'm still not great at it, but at least I have one. So it's all of those things, especially for a first generation law student who knew nothing about this world. You just got to keep doing it, and trust me, it's not the end of the world if you cold email an attorney and they never email you back. That's part of it. That's par for the course. You know, that it just happens sometimes. I worried about it so much. I wasted so much of my time worrying about it, and it ended up not being something that was even a big deal. And that's coming from somebody who like does struggle with social anxiety. Let's talk a little bit about mental health. I love talking about mental health. I've talked about my anxiety just even in this video just now. I've talked about my imposter syndrome. These are things I've talked about a lot, but let's kind of just go through it, because I feel like I did kind of hit my stride in law school. And I remember first semester, pretty much all of first semester, I was honestly thriving. Finals weren't bad for me. I honestly felt I wasn't that anxious because I just knew everything kind of clicked with me of like, this is where I'm supposed to be. And I was really happy my first semester. YouTube was going really well, and it was becoming a really cool outlet for me, and I was making friends, and I was feeling really fulfilled with what I was doing, and I felt like it was adrenaline pretty much all the time. And I just have really good fond memories of my mental health my first year, and when grades came out, my imposter syndrome was fading a little bit, and it felt really good. And I do think I had kind of a high of mental health in that time period where I was just really happy. And my first semester of law school was absolutely phenomenal, and I'd go back and do it again in a heartbeat, honestly. Even with Zoom and everything, I just feel mentally like I thrived during that time. My second semester was not that. I remember I started my second semester, and it started out really well, and job applications kind of opened up, and that's when it was very interesting. And I know a lot of my classmates shared this sentiment of, we were all those kinds of people who, when you apply for a job, you get the job. If you apply to get into a school, you get in. Like, it's hard when you go from being a person who had never really faced significant rejection to getting all of these rejection letters almost at once. I remember one day I got declined from like 3 or 4 jobs on a single day. And it really was just a reality check. It was really discouraging, very disheartening. There was a 3-week period, you can even go back and you can find the video. There was a 3-week period where I was very upset. I was having a really hard time, and it did get kind of existential at times, where I was thinking, did I even make the right choice coming to law school? Because I love the law, but I can't even get a job. And it was really hard. And I think, you know, applying for firms and applying for other positions, it's kind of new. Going through on-campus interviews and going through screener interviews and callback interviews, that's a new process that, you know, a lot of people come into law school having no experience with, and you're not expected to. You can be the best candidate, but sometimes it's just not a fit. You can be super qualified and they won't take you for some random reason. And most of the time it's something you can't even control. Getting used to kind of rejection was definitely a low point mental health wise for me. Anybody who's friends with me knew that during that time I was straight up going through it. So I would say around the January, February time mark was a really difficult time for me. It ended up being great. My advice is just to understand that the first job that you interview for most likely is not going to be your job. And you will probably face, if you're gonna be one of those people that kind of applies to a ton of firms and sends out 100 job applications, you're not gonna get every job. And sometimes you're just not a fit. Most of the time, it's for the better, and you will end up where you need to be. But that was definitely a low point of my mental health journey during law school. Once I got a job, we were smooth sailing from there. March, April, we had fun. Finals for me second semester were really, really hard because the classes I thought were harder. Civ Pro came pretty easy for me, but Crim and Con Law were very difficult for me conceptually to understand. Felt like I was a little more challenged, so finals were kind of rough. It was actually the only time that I was putting in 8 to 10 hour study days in my entire law school career was during finals week. And then right after the write-on competition to get onto law review, that was also a low point of just not even mental health, because I was obviously stressed during that time if you watch the vlog, and it was not a great time, but it just, that was the low point of my self-care journey in law school, was during write-on, because I was not sleeping, I was not eating healthy, which for me usually isn't a big problem, but I was just eating taquitos and I was eating McDonald's, I wasn't working out. It was really like a bad time for me. But other than that, I think we can kind of transition and talk a little bit about fitness and nutrition and all of those things and how those went my first year. Those honestly were a great constant for me. Working out was something that I fit into my schedule every single week, and working out was something I did 4 to 5 times a week, and I think that was great for my mental health. I think you definitely, as a 1L, if you want to work out and you want to prioritize your physical health, you can do that. And for me, it was an amazing outlet. Weightlifting, running, hiking, doing pretty much anything where I was active was a great distraction, because it was really the only time that I wouldn't think about law school. Because sometimes even sitting down and watching TV at the end of the night, I would think, oh, I could be doing this. But when I get in my zone when I'm working out, that time is strictly for me. So that was great. And honestly, like nutrition wise, just I think I did a good job of eating in a way that's sustainable for me. I don't like to label, and this is what I just talked about this in my last video, I don't like to label foods as good or bad. I don't like to restrict things out of my diet. I don't want to give up McDonald's forever, because for me that's not sustainable. I think I did a good job of keeping a nice balance, eating in a way that fuels me, and I think that contributed to my positive mental health. And let's also talk about my relationship. I think a lot of people come into law school thinking you can't maintain a relationship because you're so busy all the time. And I've done a video with Reed. You guys know, you see him in the videos often. He's a frequent co-star, and I appreciate him for it because it really spices up the content sometimes, and he's great. But I think part of that is just having a very understanding partner and having a person who gets that you're gonna be busy a lot of the time. So I think it takes that person to understand, but also you as the law student to make it a priority. If you want your relationship to be a priority, it's the same thing as a workout. I schedule my hour-long workouts in. I schedule my date nights in because that's important to me. And also just communicating and keeping each other up to date, and also like setting time apart where you don't talk to them about law school, because it was very easy for me at the beginning. I'm in a whole new world. That's all I talked to him about was law school, law school, law school, law school. And he put up with it because he's great. I also did have to create that division and say, you know what? Whenever we're at dinner, I'm gonna try to keep it to a minimum. I'm gonna try to not talk about property. You know, I'm gonna make that effort to kind of keep it separate, but keep it as healthy as possible. And that always comes down to communication, respect, two major pinnacles of every relationship. You don't have to lose your relationship just because you're in law school. Obviously, there has to be effort on both sides, because he could have been very impatient with me, not respectful of my time, and that would have led to a different outcome. And I could have also been very, you know, I'm not going to prioritize this relationship. You have to have both parties making an effort. Long story short. That's kind of my unfiltered look back at my first year of law school. I really enjoyed it. I will be the first person to say I loved law school. I think it's been a great experience, and I'm so excited for my second year to start. And I'm excited to take you guys through Vlogust and talk to you about the ins and outs, the ups and downs, everything. And yeah, so that was it. I hope I touched on everything. All right, everyone, editing Madison popping in to end out this video because my camera shut off and I didn't have an outro. Looking worse than before, if that was even at all possible. I'm rewatching this footage like, do I even look in the mirror before I start recording? The answer is no, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video anyways. This is gonna be my kind of final closing thoughts video on 1L, so we're done. We're closing the chapter, we're moving on. The rest of the Vlogust videos are gonna be all about preparation, all about things coming up on the horizon, and I'm very excited. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you all with another Vlogust video tomorrow. Bye guys.